Today I'm going to show you some of my favorite exotic flowers and plants. Some of these I promise you have never seen at local nurseries, but they do really well up here. So I'm going to explain why you don't see them at local nurseries and of course show you my experiences. Right now I'm in my driveway because my newest addition is this Siam Tulip. So let's take a look. Now, despite the name, Siam tulips are not related to tulips at all, and they don't like the cold. These are actually related, believe it or not, to the same plant that gives us turmeric. This is a type of ginger. It kind of looks a little bit like a tulip, like the vibe is the same here. It's got those torch-like flowers. Obviously, the whole flower structure is totally different. It has bracts like many tropical plants. These are modified leaves that look like petals, but the beauty about this is that they last a lot longer than a petal would. The flowers are inside, tucked away in between these bracts, and the bracts guide the pollinators. So it's a very unusual looking flower. So for a plant this pretty, you would expect that if it grows really well here, you would see it all over the place, but you don't. And the reason why is because this is a plant that sprouts very, very late. It needs a lot of heat. It is a tropical perennial. I grew this when I lived in North Florida, and it would come back up in June. By then, temperatures are in the 90s every day for a full month. And we hit 90 degrees in April, even March when you're in Florida. So that's a problem for nurseries up north because a lot of our local nurseries source their plants from Florida, and so they're just not ready to go to customers in the month of May when most people are doing their plantings. I just saw these actually at Costco of all places today, and this is the last week of June. So really, really late season flower. That's the reason why you don't see them. Why are they great to grow? Well, they are tropical perennials, so they have underground rhizomes that make it really easy to overwinter. I probably wouldn't overwinter these in my cold garage because they are a little bit sensitive to cold, but I could easily overwinter them in my house. If you've had luck overwintering caladiums, for example, these are going to be easier than that for sure. Growing requirements are really easy. Part sun, this is getting some evening sun right now, is really all they need. The flowers are going to appear pretty shortly after the leaves do. The leaves are absolutely gorgeous as well. This is kind of a substitute for hostas in Florida, for example, and it's just one of my favorite plants. Like I mentioned, I had lived in Florida for several years, so this entire area is kind of inspired by my time down there. I had a mule palm in the front of my yard, and now I'm growing this in a container here. Mule palms are one of the most cold tolerant palm trees out there, and it's just such a beautiful one. And these bamboo palms are great too. So, you know, all of these were in my yard in Florida, like every single one of these. So that's the inspiration here. Not enough people are growing nasturtiums. Not only are these flowers really, really beautiful, but the entire plant is edible. And let me make sure there are no bugs in it. Yummy. It tastes like arugula. Oh, very strong, just like arugula. But yeah, they're so pretty, the flowers, right? The variety was really attractive to me because the flower petals are just so different than your typical nasturtium. They have like these really cool separation. I don't know, it just looks like a bird taking flight. It's really pretty looking, but the flowers are also really tiny, and I just kind of think I prefer the typical nasturtium. So this is my pond area. We're actually going to get back here in a little bit. I want to show you another exotic plant, but dahlias are actually sitting in my edible garden area because dahlias are interesting. They were actually grown for produce many, many years ago. I think it was the Aztecs, and in the time of the Aztecs, they grew them basically like potatoes because the rhizomes are edible, but the flowers are really, really beautiful. So why don't we see dahlias a lot? So until recently, dahlias are really huge plants, and they just didn't have the flower structure. They would kind of plop over when they're in bloom, so they did not look good when nurseries would carry them because nurseries need plants that can survive transport for hundreds and thousands of miles even. I got some of my tall dahlias at a local nursery that grows them themselves, so they don't have to transport them really far. But most of the dahlias you see nowadays at the nurseries are the shorter rare varieties like this one. I get a lot of questions about what's growing in my Bismarckia palm, and believe it or not, it's a dahlia. This is kind of almost like a creeping dahlia. Dahlias like to have support, so maybe like a stake, a tomato cage, something to keep them from flopping over because their flowers can get quite big. But I actually found that just letting it naturally crawl out of this pot gives it a really unusual look. It's not a very tall growing dahlia variety, and this dahlia, as well as all of my dahlias this year actually, overwintered in the garage, or in this case, it overwintered in the same container as my Bismarckia. So they have really great tubers that store all the energy they need to survive the winter. They're great perennial. I've actually had some gardeners on Long Island tell me that their dahlias survive the winter here during mild years. They're a zone 8 plant, so as long as you don't get really deep freezes underground, dahlias will come back every year. But again, the reason why you really are only starting to see these become popular is because all the tall varieties need a stake, they need support, or else they flop over. So they're just not really good plants for nurseries to make available. So one more time, I just want to show you some of these beautiful flowers. So this is a more kind of short growing variety that I got at a local nursery. And then this one is one of my favorites. I think this is either Floodlight or Seattle, and it's not really quite in bloom yet. It's just sort of starting to get there, but this will grow really, really tall when it's in full bloom, and it's just an amazing, amazing plant. I think Floodlight is this one. So you see that they're starting to get their height to them. Look at all of this beautiful pink, rather white flower action we have going here. This is actually, believe it or not, cilantro. Right, so off to the pond area. I love my fishtail palm, by the way. Very rare to see palm tree around here for sale, but I found one. And in this pond area, all the way tucked into the corner, is a really cool plant. It's called a Fuchsia, which you've probably heard of before, but this is a very different variety. This variety has basically shooting star-like flowers. It's really remarkable in that way, and it has these really nice burgundy leaves. Your typical fuchsia just doesn't have that beautiful color combination, and the flower structure is totally different too. This looks so tropical with the trunk from my cordyline, which is known as Singapore twist, which is kind of coming back to life after a very bad mealybug infestation. But it just really adds so much to this little corner. And if you want to know the exact name, here it is. Fuchsia gartenmeister. That's the variety that has this nice shooting star look. Another plant that is just kind of starting to become more common are epiphytic plants, like air plants. They're more kind of notably known as Tillandsias. These are so cute. I just kind of tuck them into little parts of the yard, and you know, they're tiny, but they absolutely flush into this beautiful color of red. The whole entire plant turns red, so that way pollinators know where to find the flowers. So that's why the plant turns red, pink, all different really beautiful shades when it's about to bloom. It's a type of bromeliad. And another really cool epiphytic plant are Staghorn Ferns. I've had these for many, many years. I think I got this at a plant sale when I was in college, more than 10 years ago now, and this is like the centerpiece of my yard. And I just love growing exotic plants like Staghorn Ferns in New York because you get like this cool contrast. Like, where else are you going to see hydrangeas and Staghorn Ferns thrive with each other? Although my hydrangeas are really thirsty, they need a drink for sure. Actually, also growing a Staghorn Fern that's called Platycerium. That is the genus name, elephantotis. So this is a giant staghorn, and look at the size of this. So much larger leaves and a much smaller size than my other Staghorn Fern tucked into the corner there. So what do I love about air plants and Staghorn Ferns? Well, aside from being really exotic, they don't need big pots. So really any pots at all. They're air plants, so they don't get heavy very easily, although that Staghorn Fern is huge, so it is starting to get heavy. So anyway, just a great unusual exotic plant that you don't see too often because they're not the easiest to take care of, to be honest, in the winter time. I find Staghorn Ferns aren't really too complicated. You just need to kind of give them some indoor-outdoor time. I take them outside. If it's 45 degrees and raining, I take them outside. They're fine. They're really not that tropical. I've seen them survive freezing temperatures in Florida, so that was totally fine. But here's a native plant that is super exotic that you don't see often either. It's called a Carolina allspice. It's actually not native to New York. It's native to the Carolinas, to the southeast, but it does incredibly well here. It is very cold tolerant. I'm keeping it in a container because it smells so nice. So I want to make sure that I have it close by when those smelly flowers are in full bloom. It kind of smells like pineapple and coconut, which I think is how it's advertised. So this is called Simply Sensational. Get it? Sensational. All right. I didn't make the name up. Anyway, so it is advertised, oh, as strawberry and pineapple. All right, I could see that. Anyway, even if it didn't have a scent, the flowers are really pretty, and it does bloom through the summertime, most heavily in May and June, but on and off throughout the summertime. I definitely still see some really nice flowers coming up now, and it's just an awesome smelling plant. Even the leaves have a fragrance to it. It's just very interesting. And what I like about that fragrant foliage actually makes it very, very deer resistant. It's a native plant, so it's easy to take care of. It's gonna survive the winter. And I'm just so tired. Oh my gosh, I'm smelling the strawberry now and the pineapple. It smells really good. And I'm tired of bringing all these plants inside during the winter. So this is an exotic, tropical looking plant. Why don't you see it often? I don't know. This one is a little bit of a stumper. Maybe you don't see it often because people have their favorite shrubs. And I think that there is just now beginning to become a resurgence of people who are interested in the unusual. A lot of times nurseries just stock plants with what's common because that's what sells. But I'm really glad to start seeing some fun native plants because a lot of people are into native plants. I've gotten so many viewers on News 12 where I work, and they're like, Alex, we love our native garden. We'd love to see more segments about native plants. We love what it's doing for all of the pollinators. We're seeing so many more in our yard. So anyway, native plants are amazing, and this is a really good one. This next one you don't see very often because it's very slow growing. Pardon the mess, by the way. This is, of course, my monkey puzzle tree. I got it this past year. I'm keeping it in a container until I can figure out where I want to plant it in the ground. I also think that a reason why you don't see it very often is because it is so painful to even touch. Why do I touch it? I don't know. No pain, no gain, I guess. But yeah, this is a fantastic, amazing tree. And if you have the space for it, it is like my favorite conifer in the world because it looks prehistoric. It is prehistoric. It's survived for millions and millions of years before modern trees kind of came into action. So it's really one of the oldest, genetic oldest trees out there. And the reason why it's so sharp is to keep herbivores that are the size of dinosaurs during the time of the dinosaurs from eating it. So maybe dinosaurs themselves. So you're not, going to see a tree like that very often because most of them became extinct a long time ago. Monkey puzzle trees are amazing, but again, you don't see it very often. But it's an exotic plant that if you can find and you have a space for it, I highly, highly recommend. Clivia is one of the easiest houseplants in the world, and I take it outside and it always blooms. But even if I didn't take it outside, I still think that this would bloom every single year because it's just that easy to grow. The reason why you don't see it very often is because it is incredibly slow growing. I've had this for years and it's barely grown at all. That's what makes it a great houseplant. However, it also means that it could take many, many years for this to start blooming. I got a head start because I actually purchased this in South Carolina, and it loved the hot, humid summers in South Carolina, full shade. But I actually find that they grow best in places like California. So if you have a dry climate, as long as you keep it in shade, you're going to be really happy with this. But what's funny is that most people actually compliment the seed pods, especially during the winter time. These developed from last year's flowers. Usually I would cut off the seed pods because it does take energy away from the plant, but it's just so pretty that I decided to keep them, and it still ended up blooming anyway. Last year I got 2 flowers on it. This year maybe I'll just get 1 because these seed pods are taking up so much energy. But again, it just looks so pretty. Why not keep them? And I think eucalyptus is starting to become a lot more popular. I love this one. Oh my gosh, it's called the lemon-scented eucalyptus. The smell is so strong, and it's actually surprisingly easy to grow. So I kept this in my garage. I thought it was dead, I swear to you. I was like, this thing's a goner. I mean, eucalyptus don't lose their leaves in the winter. They are evergreen trees. If they lose their leaves, you did something wrong. Mine lost every single leaf. The branches were really brittle. I was like, this thing's dead, but it came back beautifully. And another one that really surprised me is my Tibouchina. Tibouchinas are tropical trees that have the most beautiful flowers. This one doesn't have any flowers on it right now, so I'm going to, there we go, put a little pop-up of flowers, because when it's in bloom, it is amazing. And look at how huge this one is. I mean, it is way taller than me. I probably should have pruned it at the start of this year. It's also known as a princess tree. Not sure why, but the flowers are amazing, and you don't see it very often here. Another stumper. I don't know why. I do sometimes see some of the smaller, shorter growing Tibouchinas that are, you know, a little bit easier, I guess, to sell because they're just the right size for those patio plants, but I love seeing them in tree form. They do bloom pretty much all summer long. It's just starting to get hot here, so that's why it's not blooming right now, but it will, and it is one of my favorite exotic plants that I am growing, and it stays in the garage during the winter. It actually keeps a couple of its leaves in the garage, so it's even hardier than my eucalyptus was. And that's really about it for now. I, of course, have so many other exotic plants, so please feel free to write in the comments what your favorite exotic looking plant is, or maybe if you have any questions, I would love to answer them. I'm actually like on the verge of sneezing right now because I took the deepest whiff of that eucalyptus. No regrets, but I'm definitely on the verge of sneezing. Bye, guys.